Yeah, because I think that one of the things that's behind the arguments is a position that tries to use science in a way that, or in a manner that it really can't be used, which is that it is a tool that can answer all of the questions of life. And so often what we have people do is we see this especially among like the new atheist crowd, is trying to make philosophical statements, but being said as if they're being said with the authority of science, and that's not actually the case. Or making a philosophical statement as a scientist, and then not giving it some kind of authoritative credibility that, you know, a philosophical statement without science wouldn't have. Like the main thing that I think of that I point people to is whenever Carl Sagan opened his TV show in his book with the statement, "The cosmos is all that there ever is, was, or all that there is, was, or ever will be." And, you know, I point out he's presenting himself as a scientist, making a scientific statement, but he's making a philosophical statement there. He's making a worldview statement. And so, yeah, I think that often Christians approach this conversation disarmed because the people on the other side of the debate like to set up the rules to kind of rig the game in their favor.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just interesting to me that as much work has been done to really flesh out this dynamic, we still see popular science figures who are highly credentialed cosmologists or evolutionary biologists make those kinds of statements. I love how John Lennox puts it. He says, statements made by scientists are not always statements of science. And it seems to me that you have these brilliant men with all of these scientific credentials not understanding the proper limitations of science. And what I mean by that is they don't recognize that there are some questions that science in principle cannot answer. They instead frame it as a situation of things science hasn't yet figured out, but will someday, hopefully. But they're wrong on that. When we talk about something that science cannot answer in principle, we're talking about metaphysical issues, philosophical issues. And so it seems very intellectually irresponsible to not stop and to recognize that what we might call a limitation on science. I don't like to use that word because this is another huge debate in the philosophy of science. It's known as the demarcation problem. Where does science really stop? And other things like metaphysics begin. But in the cases that I like to talk about in my field, such as the origin of the universe, the origin of consciousness, so on and so forth, there's very much a clear demarcation between what science has the tools to answer and what it never will have the tools to answer.
Can you speak a little bit more to, in your view, what that demarcation is then?
Oh, let's see. So when we're asking questions that are not related to things like the laws of nature, when we are talking about things that are not matter and energy, or the dynamics involved with matter and energy, then we're stepping over into a realm of metaphysics. So when we ask a question, like a very elementary question, like, where did the universe originally come from? You know, we can give excellent philosophical arguments for why that is a question science can't tackle. The most it can do is talk about approximate dates of origin and what happened immediately after something came from utterly nothing. But to ask about an ultimate cause of all things, we're asking not what were matter and energy doing back before the Big Bang, for example. We're asking what set everything in motion to begin with. From a state of nothingness and timelessness. And that's very much a philosophical question that science will never have the tools to answer. The best they can do is talk about, well, before that, oh, before that and before that, but you still have to deal with physics, matter, energy, but we're talking about before even the existence of things that science would be able to describe. I hope that's helpful. These are abstract ideas, so I did my best there.
No, I think that is helpful.